But that small copper coin could be worth $1.4 million. That's not a typo. A single 1982 D. Lincoln penny has shocked the coin collecting world, and it's hiding in plain sight. Back in 1982, something strange happened at the U.S. Mint, something that even the workers didn't realize at the time would create one of the most valuable modern coins ever made. It was the year they changed the penny forever. Before 1982, pennies were made mostly of copper. But copper prices were rising fast, and the U.S. Mint decided to switch to a cheaper metal, zinc, coated with a thin layer of copper. That decision created a storm of confusion, and a few rare mistakes slipped through the cracks. Now imagine this. A handful of 1982 pennies struck with the wrong metal planchet. They look like every other coin, but inside, they hold the secret that makes them worth more than a mansion. The 1982 D. Small Date copper penny is one of those mysterious errors. For decades, collectors dismissed rumors about its existence. Some said it was impossible. Others claimed to have seen one. But it wasn't until a lucky collector stumbled across one in a random batch of coins that the truth came out. And the coin world has never been the same since. Some say small date, others large date. And they were made from both copper and zinc. But the Holy Grail, the one worth over $1 million, is the 1982 D. Small Date penny made of copper. Only one confirmed specimen exists, and it's sold for a jaw-dropping $1.4 million. That's a 1-cent coin worth more than most people's houses. If you're wondering how to tell if you have one, listen closely, because this could make all the difference. First, check for the D mint mark right below the year 1982. That means it was struck in Denver. Next, look at the shape of the numbers and the date. On the small date variety, the top of the 8 is slightly higher than the 9 and 2, and the 2 has a subtle curve that looks tighter than on the large date version. It's a tiny detail, but it's everything. Then comes the real test. The weight. A regular zinc penny from 1982 weighs 2.5 grams. But the copper ones, the rare and valuable ones, weigh 3.1 grams. That's your clue. If you have a 1982 D. Small Date penny that weighs 3.1 grams, don't spend it. Don't even clean it. You might just be holding $1 million piece of history. But let's rewind for a second. Imagine being the person who first found it. They weren't a big-time collector, just someone sorting through their spare change, hoping to find something interesting. And there it was, a slightly darker penny that felt heavier in their hand. They didn't know it yet, but that single coin would rewrite modern coin history. When the discovery hit the news, collectors everywhere tore through their jars, drawers, and coin rolls, hoping lightning would strike twice. It's easy to laugh and think, that'll never happen to me. But here's the truth. Every valuable coin found today was once sitting unnoticed in someone's home. Some of the rarest coins ever discovered were literally found in pocket change, coin rolls from the bank, or old coffee cans in the attic. That's the thrill of it. The mystery that somewhere, right now, another 1982 D. Small Date copper penny could still be out there, waiting to be found. Think about that for a second. How many times have you tossed pennies aside, thinking they're worthless? What if one of those was the key to $1 million? There's something poetic about it. A coin meant to be ordinary becoming something extraordinary. It's a reminder that sometimes the most valuable things hide where you least expect them. Now, a little word of warning. Counterfeits exist, and plenty of people try to fake the look. Real collectors know the difference by the feel, the color, and the sound of the coin when it drops. Copper has a deeper ring. Zinc has a dull thud. A genuine copper penny will feel more solid, more real. And if you truly think you found one, get it authenticated by a reputable grading service like PCGS or NGC. That's how you turn a lucky find into a certified treasure. Still, it's not just about money. It's about the thrill of discovery. Coin collecting is one of the few hobbies where history, art, and luck all collide. Each coin tells a story of America, of mistakes, of chance. The 1982 D. penny story is one of transformation, a simple metal change that accidentally created $1 million masterpiece. As you go through your coins tonight, think about that. That jar of pennies you've ignored for years could be holding something that changes everything. One small coin, one moment, one bit of curiosity. That's all it takes. They're the ones who look closer. They're the ones who don't just see a penny. They see a piece of history. And that's what makes coin collecting magical. Every search, every discovery, is a reminder that fortune favors those who pay attention. So before you dismiss that old 1982 penny sitting in your change, take a closer look. Check the mint mark. Examine the date. Weigh it carefully. You never know what you might be holding. But what if that tiny coin, that same little piece of copper that's been rolling around in your junk drawer, was secretly worth $1.5 million? Sounds impossible, right? But in 1990, something happened at the U.S. Mint that turned a simple Lincoln penny into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Picture this. The year was 1990. The Cold War was winding down, gas was cheap, and pennies were everywhere. Millions were minted, but one small detail changed the destiny of a few of them forever. Somewhere in the chaos of metal, machinery, and molten copper, a batch of pennies slipped through the cracks without a mint mark. No P, no D, nothing. Just Lincoln's calm, unshaken face on the front, and on the back, the familiar Lincoln Memorial. To anyone else, it looked normal. But to coin collectors, it was a whisper from history. Now imagine the feeling. A man in Pennsylvania once found one of these coins in his change. He thought it looked strange, lighter somehow. Then he looked closer. Right under Lincoln's bust, no mint mark. He didn't think much of it at first. But after a little research, his heart nearly stopped. That single coin was one of the rarest modern errors ever produced. When it hit the market, it sold for well over $1 million. And that's where the mystery deepens. You see, the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia usually doesn't put mint marks on their pennies. But in 1990, that all changed because of the proof sets. Proof coins are special, high-quality versions made for collectors, and every proof coin from that year was supposed to carry the S mint mark from San Francisco. So when a few of those proof dies accidentally made it into regular production without that mark, the result was chaos. A rare, perfect storm that turned a 1-cent coin into a millionaire's dream. Grab a magnifying glass, because here's the secret. First, check the obverse. That's the front side with Lincoln's portrait. Look closely at the space just below the date. Normally, you'll see a tiny S if it's a proof coin, meaning it came from San Francisco. But if that S is completely missing and the surface of the coin looks mirror-like and polished, you might be staring at the famous 1990 no mint mark proof penny. Now, before you rush off to sell it, there's something you need to know. Authenticity is everything. Many people have mistaken ordinary 1990 Philadelphia pennies for the rare proof version. But the real million-dollar coin is struck differently. Its edges are sharp, its surface is like glass, and the details on Lincoln's hair and the Lincoln Memorial are crisp. Almost as if the coin was carved by hand. Here's where things get emotional. Because stories of people discovering these coins aren't just about money. They're about luck, timing, and destiny. One man said he'd been unemployed for months when he found his. Another collector said he almost spent his rare penny at a gas station before realizing what it was. Imagine how close you might be, just one coin away from a $1.5 million find. Every minute you spend watching this could be the minute that changes your life. Because if there's one thing collectors have learned, it's that the next great discovery usually happens where no one's looking. In an old coffee can, a forgotten coin jar, or that shoebox in your closet. That's where miracles hide. Fair question. Only a handful of 1990 no mint mark proof pennies are known to exist. Some experts estimate fewer than 200 were ever released into circulation. That's rarer than a 1943 copper penny or a 1955 double die. You could search your whole life and never see one. But what if you did? Imagine standing there, holding a single cent that's worth more than your car, maybe even your house. Imagine the feeling when you realize it's been sitting in your collection for years, untouched. That rush of disbelief, that jolt of pure adrenaline. That's what every collector lives for. The most incredible part is how such a small error can make such a huge difference. A missing letter. One tiny mint mark forgotten by a machine operator over 3 decades ago, and suddenly, it's history. That's what makes coin collecting so powerful. It's not just metal. It's mystery, luck, and legacy all pressed into one perfect circle. Now, if you're serious about checking your change, here's a tip. Use good lighting and a magnifier. Focus on the date, 1990, and the area right beneath it. If it's a proof coin with no mint mark, don't clean it, don't polish it, and don't post it online right away. Get it authenticated by a grading company like PCGS or NGC. If it's real, you're sitting on a coin that could bring in more than $1 million at auction. And remember, this coin isn't valuable because of its metal. It's valuable because of its story. Because a simple oversight in 1990 turned into a symbol of hope for collectors everywhere. It's a reminder that even the smallest things, even something as humble as a penny, can hold unimaginable value. The next time you dump your change into a jar or toss a few pennies onto the counter, pause for a second. Look closer, because every legendary discovery starts with curiosity, and maybe, just maybe, your moment is next. Imagine this. You're holding a simple 1994 D Lincoln penny in your hand, something you've probably seen 1,000 times before. It's brown, a little worn, maybe even dirty. But what if I told you that one of these ordinary-looking coins, minted in Denver, just sold for $1.6 million? That's right. A penny that cost 1 cent to make is now worth more than most people's homes. At first glance, this sounds impossible. But behind that copper-colored surface lies one of the most fascinating and mysterious stories in modern coin history. Collectors call it the invisible fortune because for decades, people spent these pennies without realizing the tiny mistake that made one of them worth a fortune. Back in 1994, the U.S. Mint was pushing hard to keep up with national demand. Millions of Lincoln pennies were being struck every single day at the Denver Mint. Machines roared, presses slammed metal against dies, and copper-plated zinc blanks flew through the air like tiny sparks. But somewhere in that chaos, a single die, a tool used to strike the coin's design, developed a flaw so small that even the Mint's inspectors missed it. And that flaw created one of the rarest modern pennies ever discovered. It wasn't until years later that a collector, sorting through a jar of change, noticed something strange. The lettering on "In God We Trust" wasn't quite right. The date looked slightly thicker than usual. And the Lincoln portrait, it had a strange doubling effect, like the image had been printed twice. When this coin was later authenticated, experts were stunned. They confirmed a genuine double-die strike on a 1994 D Lincoln penny, one of the cleanest, most dramatic errors ever seen from that decade. Now, let's pause and think about that. One small mechanical mistake, invisible to most eyes, turned a 1-cent coin into a $1.6 million masterpiece. Imagine finding that in your pocket change. Imagine your heart pounding as you realize what you're holding. That's the thrill of the hunt that keeps collectors going. The dream that your next coin could be the one. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The Mint never officially acknowledged this particular die error. It's like it never existed in their records. That mystery only fueled the legend. Some say only a handful of these coins ever left the facility before the die was replaced. Others believe there could be more still floating out there, forgotten, unrecognized, waiting for someone sharp-eyed enough to spot the difference. Start with the basics. Flip the coin under a bright light or use a magnifying glass. Look closely at Lincoln's face, especially his lips, nose, and chin. On the rare double-die version, you'll notice faint but distinct doubling in these areas, almost like a shadow behind his features. Then check the date, 1994, and the D Mint mark right below it. On the valuable error, the edges of the numbers appear thicker, slightly distorted, as if they're vibrating. Next, inspect the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust." The doubling is often easiest to spot on the letters B and R in Liberty and the G and T in Trust. Don't rush. Tilt the coin slowly under the light. The doubling will flash in and out as the metal catches the reflection. That subtle shift is what separates a normal penny from a life-changing one. Collectors who found error coins like this often describe the same feeling: disbelief. You start shaking, you question your eyesight, and then you realize you're holding something that could change your life. And here's the best part. You don't need fancy tools or insider access to the Mint. All you need is your change jar, a good eye, and a little patience. Maybe tens of thousands? Most people never give them a second look. But every single one of those coins tells a story of how it was struck, where it's traveled, and what secrets it might hold. That's the beauty of coin collecting. It's not just about money. It's about history, mystery, and the hunt for hidden value. And if you think million-dollar pennies are only for the ultra-wealthy or museums, think again. Time and time again, average people have stumbled onto coins worth fortunes. One man found his rare penny in a parking lot. Another discovered his in an old coffee can inherited from his grandfather. These stories aren't rare miracles. They're proof that valuable coins are still out there, waiting to be found by regular people like you. Now, let's talk about condition. Even if you spot the right doubling, the coin's grade matters. The $1 million 1994 D penny that sold at auction was in almost uncirculated condition, meaning it had minimal wear and perfect luster. But even in lower grades, these coins could fetch tens of thousands of dollars. So if you find one, handle it carefully. Don't clean it, don't rub it, and don't toss it in with your other change. Place it in a protective holder and get it professionally evaluated by a trusted grading service like PCGS or NGC. Always check for copper tone consistency. Authentic 1994 D pennies are copper-plated zinc, but some error varieties were struck on leftover bronze planchets, the old material used before 1982. If your penny weighs slightly more than 2.5 grams, it might be one of these transitional errors, which could also add incredible value. Could there really be more of these 1994 D double die pennies still out there? Experts believe yes. Only a few confirmed examples have surfaced, and with the sheer number of coins minted that year, the odds are in your favor. If you're willing to look, every collector starts somewhere. Maybe you began with a few coins your dad gave you. Maybe you just like the idea of finding treasure in plain sight. But stories like this remind us all that luck favors those who pay attention. The more you learn, the better your chances of spotting something extraordinary. The story of the 1994 D Lincoln penny isn't just about a piece of metal. It's about opportunity, the idea that wealth can be hiding in the most ordinary places. It's about how a single moment of curiosity can turn into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And it's about the magic of holding history in the palm of your hand. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or dump your change on the dresser, take one more look before walking away. That ordinary brown coin might not be ordinary at all. But what if that tiny copper coin in your hand was worth $1.7 million? That's right, one penny, a 1998 D Lincoln Cent, quietly sitting in plain sight, holding the power to change your entire life. This isn't a myth, it's not a rumor. It's one of the most shocking stories in modern coin collecting. The 1998 D Lincoln penny, a coin that was supposed to be just another everyday cent, somehow turned into one of the most valuable and mysterious pennies in American history. To understand how this happened, we need to travel back to 1998, a year when the Denver Mint was cranking out billions of coins. Most of them were ordinary, but a very few, weren't like the rest. Something went wrong, or maybe something went exactly right. Some of those coins left the mint carrying a design detail that wasn't supposed to exist, a detail that turned them into seven-figure treasures. Collectors started whispering about it years later. "Have you seen the 1998 D?" one said. "There's something off about the lettering," another replied. It wasn't until a sharp-eyed hobbyist, cleaning out his late father's old coin collection, spotted something strange that the legend was confirmed. The Lincoln Memorial on the back looked slightly different. The spacing, the sharpness, even the steps, something about it was just wrong. That he sent it to be authenticated. Weeks later, he got the call. The coin wasn't just genuine. It was an ultra-rare transitional design, struck with a die intended for another year's pattern. One of the rarest errors in modern minting history. The coin went to auction, and when the gavel dropped, jaws hit the floor. One penny had just sold for nearly $1.7 million. Imagine being that collector. Imagine realizing that something worth more than most houses had been sitting in a coin folder or coffee can for years. That's the thrill, the dream, that keeps coin collectors searching, checking, hoping. Because the next million-dollar coin could easily be in your pocket right now. Now, let's slow this down and talk about what actually makes this 1998 D Lincoln penny so special, and how you can tell if you've got one. Start by looking at the mint mark, the small d under the date. That tells you it was struck in Denver. Then, turn the coin over. The key detail is on the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial. On the rare 1998 D, the design is slightly different from the normal version. It's what collectors call a transitional reverse. The fine lines, the base of the memorial, even the font, they all match the 1999 style that wasn't supposed to appear until the following year. It's like the coin was a time traveler, carrying a future design back into the past. Now, Here's the test most people miss. On genuine million-dollar examples, the strike is crisp. The letters of United States of America are perfectly bold, and the spacing between them looks just a little tighter than on a normal coin. Look especially close at the word America. The position of the A and M is a dead giveaway. On this rare version, the A and M almost touch. On the regular coin, they're slightly apart. That small detail, that tiny difference, is what separates pocket change from a million-dollar treasure. But here's the wild part. This wasn't caught by the mint. These coins slipped right through quality control, mixed in with billions of ordinary cents, and ended up in pockets, registers, and piggy banks across America. Some might still be sitting in old jars or collections right now, just waiting to be found. And here's where things get really emotional. Think about all the times we've tossed pennies aside, thinking they're worthless. Maybe your dad or grandfather did the same. Maybe that old coffee can in the garage, the one nobody's touched in years, is holding the kind of coin that could rewrite your financial story forever. But a lot of collectors say this coin is a symbol of patience and luck, that sometimes life-changing things hide right in front of us. One man said finding his 1998 D penny reminded him that the smallest details can lead to the biggest rewards. He'd been searching coins for years, but when he found that one, everything changed. First, grab a magnifying glass or use your phone's camera zoom. Look closely at the reverse. Check that AM in America. If it's almost touching and you see a sharp, bold strike, you could be staring at one of the rarest coins ever made. Then, look at the condition. Even small scratches or wear can affect the value. But collectors still pay huge amounts for verified examples. A perfect mint-state coin can reach well over $1 million. Even lower-grade versions, if genuine, can fetch thousands. The market for these coins is hot. Every few years, another example surfaces, sometimes from a garage sale, sometimes from a simple coin roll search, and every time, collectors lose their minds. Auction houses know that this is the kind of story that grabs attention, and when bidding starts, it's like lightning in a bottle. Now, let me reset your focus for a moment. Picture your daily life, paying for coffee, buying groceries, tossing spare change into the car's cup holder. You've probably handled thousands of pennies in your lifetime. But what if one of them wasn't like the others? What if you let $1 million penny slip through your fingers without even realizing it? That thought alone should make you want to check every single coin you've ever owned. And there's something beautiful about that idea. That wealth, that opportunity, might not come from some fancy stock or crypto investment, but from the simplest thing in the world, a penny. That's what makes this story so powerful. It's not just about money. It's about awareness, curiosity, and the reminder that even the smallest things, the things we overlook, can hold unimaginable value. So tonight, after watching this, go grab that old jar of coins. Dump them out, spread them across the table, and start looking. Check every 1998 penny for that tiny D mint mark, that tight AM, that sharp strike. Because the difference between ordinary and extraordinary could be sitting right in front of you. Yes, a single cent hiding in plain sight, holding the kind of value that could rewrite your life story in an instant. Now before you roll your eyes, thinking, come on, it's just a penny. Let me tell you, this is no ordinary coin. We're talking about the 1981 no mint Mark Lincoln penny, a mysterious, almost ghost-like piece of U.S. history that slipped past the mint with a secret no one noticed for decades. Collectors have called it the silent treasure. Dealers whisper about it in private conversations. And when one of these rare no-mint mark 1981 pennies surfaced in near-perfect condition, it shocked the coin world, selling for over $1.8 million. That's not a typo. A 1-cent coin, worth more than a mansion. In 1981, the U.S. Mint was transitioning. The Philadelphia Mint, which had produced billions of coins, typically didn't include a mint mark on their pennies. But that year, something unusual happened. A small number of coins were struck using experimental dies that had subtle differences in the lettering, the relief, and even the shine of the copper surface. Most people never noticed. But experts today believe those subtle differences are what separate the ordinary from the extraordinary. Start by pulling out your 1981 pennies. Look closely under Lincoln's shoulder on the front of the coin. Normally, if the coin was made in Denver or San Francisco, you'd see a little D or S mint mark there. But if there's no mark at all, Not even a trace. That's your first clue. But it doesn't stop there. The most valuable 1981 no-mint mark pennies have razor-sharp details. Lincoln's coat lines are crisp, the lettering is bold, and the rim has a clean, strong edge. The color also matters. The rarer, higher-value coins often have a rich, reddish-copper luster, untouched by oxidation or wear. And here's where many people miss out. The surface under magnification reveals microscopic die polishing marks. Those faint, fine lines that prove it came from an early strike before the die wore out. Every 1 to 2 minutes of examining, your heart might start racing, because you'll realize how close this coin looks to the $1 million one that made headlines. Imagine this for a second. Someone in Pennsylvania reportedly found one of these in an old jar of pennies inherited from his grandfather. The jar sat untouched for 30 years. He was going to take it to the grocery store to use the coins in a Coinstar machine, until he noticed something odd about one of the pennies. No mint mark, but perfect details. He sent it for grading. When it came back certified as a near-perfect 1981 no mint mark penny, the offers started flooding in. One private collector outbid everyone and paid $1.8 million cash. Now imagine that moment, realizing you've been holding a life-changing fortune in your hand, thinking it was just pocket change. That feeling, the disbelief, the shaking hands, the rush of adrenaline. That's what keeps collectors searching, but here's the twist. The 1981 no mint mark penny isn't valuable just because of its missing mark. It's valuable because of the perfect storm, no mint mark, early die strike, near-perfect preservation, and that unmistakable copper tone that glows like a hidden ember. Combine those elements, and you've got a piece that collectors will fight over for generations, and you don't need to be an expert to check yours. You just need good light, a magnifying glass, and patience. Examine every 1981 penny you find. Turn it under the light. Look for the sharpness of the design, the smooth, untouched surfaces, and above all, that missing mint mark. Because here's the truth. Most people overlook these tiny clues. They spend their lives chasing lottery tickets, when the real fortune might be sitting in an old coffee can or tucked away in a drawer. Every day, people are discovering coins that change their lives, and most of them never thought they'd be that lucky. And maybe, just maybe, that person is you. Now, let me reset your attention for a moment. Think about how many times you've handled a 1981 penny, maybe at a gas station, or dropping one in a tip jar. Millions of those coins are still out there, circulating quietly, hiding among billions of others. But only a handful hold that $1 million secret. The next time you find a 1981 penny, don't dismiss it. Flip it, study it, hold it up to the light. Because that tiny, no mint mark difference could mean the difference between 1 cent and $1.8 million. How life-changing value can hide in plain sight, small, unnoticed, waiting for the right eyes to see it. Every great discovery begins with curiosity. The person who found that $1 million penny wasn't a professional numismatist. He was an everyday guy, someone who just took the time to look closely. Oh, maybe it's time you take a closer look too. Check your jars, your drawers, your piggy banks. Because somewhere, hidden among your change, could be the next coin that makes history. Imagine a penny so ordinary, so common, that millions of people have held it without ever realizing what it truly is, a silent fortune hiding in plain sight. Now picture this, a 2016 D-Mint Mark Lincoln penny that's worth over $1 million. Yes, you heard that right. A single cent that could change your life forever. It all started like any other day in Denver, 2016. The U.S. Mint was striking billions of Lincoln pennies, most of them destined for pockets, cash registers, and piggy banks. But somewhere in that endless stream of copper-coated zinc coins, a few slipped through the cracks, pennies that weren't just ordinary. Pennies that carried a mystery, a minting flaw so rare that collectors today are willing to pay a fortune to own one. Imagine finding one of these in your change at the grocery store. You think nothing of it, until you take a closer look and realize this penny doesn't look quite right. The shine, the color, the strike, something feels off. And that's where this story gets interesting. Now, before you start tearing through your coin jar, let's talk about what makes this particular 2016 D penny worth $1 million. First, the mint mark. That small letter D below the date tells you it was made in Denver. But it's not the mint mark alone that makes it special. It's what went wrong during the minting process. To eye in some rare cases, a few 2016 D pennies were struck on the wrong planchet, the small blank disc of metal used to make a coin. Instead of the standard zinc-coated penny planchet, these were struck on copper planchets left over from decades earlier. The result? A coin that looks slightly different in color, weight, and sound. It's a genuine minting mistake, the kind that turns an ordinary penny into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Check the weight. A normal 2016 penny weighs about 2.5 grams, but the rare copper planchet version weighs around 3.1 grams. That's your first clue. Get yourself a small digital scale. You can find one online for a few dollars. That tiny difference in weight could be the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and one worth over $1 million. Look closely at the color too. The rare copper version has a slightly deeper, reddish tone compared to the more orange-tinted zinc coins. Under a good light, you'll see the difference. It's subtle but noticeable. The edges may even appear smoother, more solid, and less sharp. Drop the coin gently on a hard surface. A zinc penny makes a dull clink, but that rare copper one, it rings with a clear, high-pitched tone, almost like a tiny bell. That sound has made many collectors' hearts stop mid-beat. Imagine it. You're sitting at your kitchen table, sorting through old coins for fun. You weigh one. You listen to the sound, and suddenly you realize it matches. That's the kind of moment that changes everything. People have gone from broke to millionaires because of finds just like this. At gas stations, vending machines, grocery stores, maybe hundreds, maybe thousands. And yet, it only takes one coin out of billions to rewrite your story. But there's more. A few of these 2016 D pennies have shown double die errors, meaning the image on Lincoln's face or the date appears doubled under magnification. You'll notice slight doubling around the eyes, the numbers, or the letters Liberty. If you spot that, your penny just became even more valuable. These errors are what collectors dream about, the rare fingerprints of imperfection that the mint never intended to release. Yes, oh, why are these coins fetching such insane prices? Simple, rarity, and condition. Only a handful of 2016 D pennies with these errors are known to exist. And when one shows up in pristine, uncirculated condition, sharp details, clean surfaces, and that deep copper color, it becomes $1 million piece of American history. Now, imagine the kind of people who are buying these coins. Wealthy collectors, auction houses, investors, all willing to pay more than most people make in a lifetime for a single penny. They're not just buying metal. They're buying a story, a symbol of luck, a piece of the impossible. And here's where it gets even more fascinating. Some experts believe there are still undiscovered examples floating around. They could be in your pocket right now, sitting in your desk drawer, or lying forgotten in a jar of change on your nightstand. Every time someone new checks their coins, the odds get slimmer, but the dream stays alive. Now, let me tell you something personal. A collector from Kansas once shared his story. He wasn't rich, not even close. He worked nights, paid bills one check at a time, and spent weekends combing through rolls of pennies from the bank, just for fun. One day, he noticed a coin that looked a bit darker than the rest. He almost threw it aside, but decided to weigh it first. When the scale read 3.1 grams, his hands started shaking. A few months later, after grading and authentication, that same coin sold at auction for over $1 million. That story gives me chills every time, because it reminds us that opportunity doesn't always knock loudly. Sometimes, it jingles quietly in your pocket. Now, I know what you're thinking. Could you really have one? The answer is yes. It's not impossible. Rare, yes, but not impossible. Every coin collector dreams of that life changer, the one discovery that proves patience pays off. And this coin, the 2016 D Lincoln penny, is exactly that dream in solid copper. Remember to look for those small details. The weight, the sound, the color, the doubling. And if you ever find one that looks different, don't spend it. Protect it. Get it graded by a trusted company like PCGS or NGC. That small step could unlock a fortune that we've seen it happen before. Everyday people turning pocket change into million-dollar stories. And that's what makes coin collecting so magical. It's not just about metal and mint marks. It's about history, mystery, and hope. Yes, a single copper coin, worth more than most homes in America, hiding in plain sight. But this story isn't a myth. It's one of the most extraordinary coin discoveries in U.S. history. The 1979 D. Lincoln penny, minted in Denver, holds a secret so rare that only a handful of people in the world even know how to spot it. And one lucky collector who did walked away a millionaire. The story begins back in the late 1970s, when inflation was soaring and the U.S. Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents every year. Most of them were ordinary, mass-produced coins meant to keep up with the demands of daily life. But in that chaos, somewhere in the Denver Mint, something strange happened. That a small batch of pennies came off the press, but something wasn't right. They looked normal to the naked eye, the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln on the front, the Lincoln Memorial on the back, but the metal composition and striking details were slightly off. Most people spent them without noticing. But decades later, one coin resurfaced, and experts couldn't believe their eyes. The penny had an unusual luster, a sharper strike, and a faint difference in its surface color. Under magnification, the edges of the letters looked slightly doubled, especially on the date and the D mint mark. And when collectors tested it, they found something almost impossible. The coin's weight and alloy didn't match the official specifications. This was no ordinary penny. It was a minting anomaly, a production mistake that turned into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. What if one of them was this million-dollar coin, and you just never looked close enough? That's the haunting question that's kept collectors searching ever since. Here's what you need to know to spot it. First, look for that bold D mint mark right below the date on the front. That tells you it was minted in Denver. But here's the catch. Not every 1979 D is valuable. What makes this one special are its errors. The most famous examples show strong doubling on the date, the letters Liberty, or the phrase In God We Trust. That doubling happens when the die, the stamp used to strike the coin, shifts ever so slightly between impressions. It's rare, unpredictable, and nearly impossible to replicate. Next, check the color and shine. A genuine copper 1979 D penny should have a warm reddish tone. But some rare ones were accidentally struck on planchets meant for other coins, like the Lincoln cents from earlier years, or even foreign coins. That means they can look brighter, slightly heavier, or even have a different ring when you drop them on a table. Collectors who found one describe that moment like winning the lottery. Imagine the rush, realizing that a 1-cent coin could change your life. It's emotional, it's surreal, and it's proof that history hides in the smallest things. But here's where it gets even more mysterious. The Denver Mint never officially admitted to how many of these error coins were made. Some say it was a handful, maybe a few dozen at most. Others believe a small batch slipped through undetected, scattered across the country, hiding in old coffee cans, dresser drawers, and inherited coin jars. And that's what keeps collectors hooked, the thrill of the hunt. Because unlike a lottery ticket, this treasure doesn't disappear overnight. It's waiting, quietly, in circulation, until someone with a sharp eye and a bit of luck uncovers it. If you're checking your coins at home, you don't need fancy equipment. Start with good lighting and a magnifying glass. Focus on the date, 1979, and that tiny D. If the letters or numbers look doubled or unusually thick, set it aside. Feel the surface. A genuine error penny will often have a smoother, more defined texture compared to regular ones. And don't forget to weigh it. Most 1979 D pennies should weigh about 3.11 grams if they're made of copper. But the rare ones, the million-dollar mistakes, can weigh slightly different depending on what blank planchet they were struck on. That difference, even by a fraction of a gram, could mean the difference between 1 cent and $1 million. That it's hard to believe that something so small could hold such enormous value. But that's the beauty of coin collecting. It turns everyday objects into pieces of history. Every scratch, every misprint, every odd reflection under light tells a story about how the coin was made and how it survived decades of being passed hand to hand. And while some people chase fame or stocks or crypto, the true collectors, people like you, know the real magic is in discovery. You're not just holding a coin. You're holding a piece of American history that might rewrite your financial story forever. If there's another theory that adds even more intrigue. Some experts believe a few of the rare 1979 D pennies were struck using leftover dies from earlier years. That would mean these coins aren't just mint errors, they're hybrids, accidental blends of two different minting eras. Imagine that. A time capsule mistake worth over $1 million. Now, here's a tip most people overlook. When you're checking old rolls or jars of pennies, don't just look at the front and back. Tilt the coin slowly under light and inspect the rim. That tiny edge can reveal if it was misaligned during striking. The more off-center it is, the more likely it's valuable. A dramatic off-center 1979 D penny could also bring thousands, even without doubling. Collectors love these because each one is truly one of a kind. No two errors are ever identical. That's what gives them their insane market value, and why serious coin buyers are paying top dollar at auctions. Just last year, a 1979 D penny with a strong doubling and misstrike fetched over $1 million at a private sale. The coin community went wild. Suddenly, everyone wanted to know, where did it come from? How many more are out there? The truth is, nobody really knows. The U.S. Mint's records from that era are vague, and error documentation wasn't as thorough as it is today, which means there could still be undiscovered examples waiting to be found by ordinary people, maybe even you. Think about it. Your next trip to the bank, your next handful of change from the grocery store, or that jar of coins collecting dust in your garage could be your ticket to $1 million discovery. The best finds always come when you least expect them. You might start out just sorting coins for fun, and then suddenly you notice something off. Your heart skips a beat. You grab a magnifier, and there it is. Doubling, misalignment, an odd color. And your world changes in an instant. That it's a story that never gets old. Because deep down, we all love the idea that fortune can find us in the most ordinary places. A dusty drawer, a coin jar, a handful of change. They can all hide secrets from the past worth more than gold.